Why did Hillfort dwellers build ramparts? Well, I've just come into the Hillfort across this entrance here, which is obviously solid, and the ramparts then go all around the fort, and I'll put on a LiDAR image of the fort because it's the best way to see it, and perhaps a Google Earth one as well. Well, why build a rampart? Good for defence, yes, but where did the theory from that come from? And because this is one of the earliest hill forts in our area, I think we need to go and look at the causewayed enclosure, which you may not be able to see too much of, which obviously was a ditch of sorts. So they knew the value of having a ditch, an entrance into somewhere, and it would have been quite symbolic. And this part of the exercise, obviously from my point of view of me looking at this, goes back 4,000 years from today to over 2,500 years BC. Incredible. Let's go and have a look anyway. And the causewayed enclosure is up that little path you can see up towards the top end of the hill fort. Up to it. Down here I can see now the line of the causeway enclosure, which goes off this way and would have obviously been deeper when it was built, and swinging around by the round barrow and off this way as well. And I think it's best to show the LiDAR map and show them the position of where I am on that, so you have more of an idea for that. And you can see how tall the rampart is here, with the sheep walking down below me. And it must have taken a lot to construct this. And it's a univallate hill fort, so just a one rampart, and on this side would have been, I assume, more for protection than anything else from enemies. And overlooking the primary trading route there of the River Wylye. That's W-Y-L-Y-E. Rather weird spelling, but that's what it is. And I think we'll carry along here, where the shape of the ramparts changes once again, but they're all quite similar, and there may be a reason for this. So with the ramparts behind me here, why did they build ramparts? Well, they saw the value of a ditch, a division, up to 4,000 years ago, or around about 2,000 years before the ramparts were actually built. So if you can give yourself a division, you can, yes, protect yourself. But I'm sure they were used for other things as well. And on my last video, we talked about bringing water into the area and how important that was before they started. This hill fort is 37.5 acres. And there are various calculations about how long it takes to dig a rampart. And judging by these, I look at it and they talk about 150 people. And we often think of the people that lived here building those ramparts. And 150 people, it would have taken, by my calculation, in the region of 3 years for 37.5 acres, perhaps a little bit longer. Well, just walking up over these areas, it doesn't get much better than this to come out and put your feet on the ground. Feet on the ground history, looking at the area around you. You learn so much. And you can see with this erosion here on this rampart, how they may have looked being just the chalk face showing. I'm sure it would have been quite impressive, but you've still got soil in between as well. I think a lot of people forget that. You think it'd be gleaming white. It may be from a distance. When you get up close, it probably wouldn't have been as gleaming as we like to think. I'm sat here on the edge of the rampart, and I just wondered, were all of these ramparts dug by the people that lived here, or were there teams going around digging them? Because a lot of them look fairly similar, and it makes me wonder if there was big teams going around, almost like construction gangs in the time, actually constructing these ramparts, digging them with makeshift shovels and antlers and all sorts of things we like to think that they actually used. But we don't really exactly know. But I would think that that's a possibility that we've never considered too. The area we're looking at here is one of the gateways, and this would have been a vulnerable spot, yes, in times of attack, but generally needed. And I often wonder why they didn't just put down trees and use a bridge or something. And I think the answer is that they probably wanted to take their livestock off down to one side of it. When digging these ramparts out, they could use the stones for sling stones, they could use the flints that they found for various purposes, they could use the chalk for other purposes, they could use nearly everything that they were coming across, and also stacking up the rubble to one side. And then people say, well, what did they do about their waste then, James? Well, they used it in their building and for other purposes too, probably even dried some out for fuel. They were far more entrepreneurial than we give them credit for. So they were almost self-sufficient before self-sufficiency was even thought of. So walking these ramparts does give you an appreciation for history and for the Iron Age people, and prior to that the Bronze Age people, and prior to that obviously the Neolithic people that occupied these places. So the word that we use, rampart, shows a division, a boundary and a protection. Brought over by William the Conqueror, the French word, and it's more of a romantic word to use, and we all like to use it in every way. But the English word for it is bulwark. Doesn't sound quite the same, does it? And they must have been absolutely key to the Romans when they first came over. They could occupy the hill forts, and it would give them the good view of everything before they moved down into the other areas and populated those. But they were only here for like 400 and odd years, so who knows? So down in the ramparts again, we think of them as defensive structures, but they could have quite easily have also been used for placing their livestock in and grazing them in that area too. Certain of the areas of a rampart may have been used for disposing of waste. And as I said earlier, I think that the amount of times they were actually used for defence was quite low. So they probably utilised them for many other things. They even perhaps put the bits across them and then hung things on them and off of them, and it had many different uses and fires down in them and working areas. So it wasn't all on the top where the houses were. They would have used it for other things too, and that would have made sense. So we think of these romantically named structures crafted by hand as being absolutely just for defence. And I'm sure that they weren't just for defence at all. They were used for many other things other than just defending. And I think we have to get our heads around that sometimes and say to ourselves, well, you know, ramparts, yep, they give good views, they show a division, but they're also used for other purposes. And those other purposes were probably far more than we will ever know. But we've got to get our minds around that when we come and look at these wonderful structures. And the other point that I wanted to make is that there may have been teams of people going around digging these ramparts, not necessarily all the people that lived in the Hillfort digging them, but the people that were going around probably, I can't say making money, but doing fairly well out of it. Like, can you build me a hill fort, mate? Yeah, I can do. a bit busy at the moment. I don't know when I'll be there. I can start on Tuesday and I'll finish in 4 years' time. But just good to think about that more than anything else. So, in summary, what would I say that this video was all about? A, it's understanding what ramparts were for. And I believe that they are not just a defensive structure, not just a boundary, but also had various uses as well. And I've had a fantastic time looking around Scratchbury Hillfort. And I would like to say thank you very much for watching. And until the next time, goodbye.